Hey, welcome back everyone to the Progressive Brothers Podcast. This is episode 73. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Progressive Brothers Podcast. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter at brothers_podcast. So today's topic, why don't the white conservative movement back the black conservative movement? Let's talk about a few candidates who ran over the last period and who will be running over the next election cycle. Let's start with John James. John James ran for office in Michigan. He had handshakes and photo ops with Trump, but at the same time, when it came down to the wire, there was no MAGA support for him. And since that election cycle in November 2020, you haven't heard from John James since from the MAGA movement. But that's interesting because if everyone's all a conservative, wouldn't that mean that you just support all the black conservatives? The black conservatives came out and supported Trump in the MAGA movement, but they did not seem to reciprocate that same political energy. Now let's talk about Vernon Jones, man who is supposed to be running for office in Georgia, had some semblance of supporting MAGA and Trump for that matter. He wants to ban CRT. The first thing he does when he gets into office, mask wearing, vaccinations, he's all against that, right? He wore the MAGA hat. But when it comes time to actually back him up on the public scale, there are no call, no show for him. Why is that? Let's look at Allen West, Lieutenant Colonel, Texas GOP. Where's the support from the MAGA movement and Trump himself when it comes to Allen West running for potentially governor against Governor Abbott? I don't see any support coming for Mr. West, Lieutenant Colonel West, from the MAGA movement, although he's Team MAGA. He loves MAGA. And let's talk about Larry Elder, big Trump supporter, libertarian who ran on the Republican right ticket and didn't get much against Gavin Newsom in that recall election. Most of his support came from white people and white conservatives on the ground, and not really black supporters. There were very few black supporters who came out for him. No MAGA movement behind him. You did have GOP support, but not MAGA movement support. This is a little bit different. It's a nuance here when it comes to GOP versus MAGA. MAGA is the GOP. The GOP is just a figment of an imagination for all intents and purposes. Very ineffective on the ground, as we saw with Larry Elder, as we're seeing with Lieutenant Colonel West. What does this really mean, all in summary? A lot of black conservatives, black male conservatives, always seem to be the biggest cheerleaders for MAGA, the biggest advocates for MAGA, always kissing the ring of MAGA and Trump himself. But they never seem to come out and acknowledge that the MAGA movement doesn't really acknowledge you. But why is that? Black conservatives, black male conservatives for that matter, don't build political capital. We saw that with Ben Carson, a man who was brilliant enough to be the first surgeon in the world to separate conjoined twins at the head, could only take a cabinet position under HUD. As brilliant as he was wasted resources, talent-wise, within the MAGA movement. When will black male conservatives get the message that they're just not wanted within the movement? You don't build political capital. You don't have the social capital. No matter how many suits and ties you wear, no matter how much you pump your pom-poms for Trump, in the MAGA movement, they won't acknowledge you. So what's the benefit of being a black conservative if the political energy that you expend out is not being reciprocated by the people who don't look like you? Vernon Jones, with all his big mouth antics, isn't getting any support from the MAGA movement. John James left in the wind like a kite. Lieutenant Colonel West, Texas GOP, may not be able to knock Governor Abbott out of his seat without some MAGA support. He has to get on that MAGA train. But the train's not coming anytime soon. Larry Elder failed to launch, couldn't get off the ground. Despite all of his antics and support for MAGA, he never really got to launch. What's the point in being a black male conservative if all you're going to do is kowtow to whatever the MAGA movement says? The MAGA movement says ban CRT, the left is this, the left is that, liberal this, liberal that. You jump right behind it. And the ideas that they have, if you think about it, especially let's take Larry Elder into consideration, California has had consecutive quarters of growth under Democratic liberal leadership. Why would they need a conservative at the helm with such small support on the ground for a conservative movement? Because the branding is so bad in California that there is no place for a conservative to actually take the helm away from a leftist liberal Democrat. So therefore, there is no value in a conservative taking power, much less a black male conservative at that. Same thing with Texas GOP candidate Allen West, Lieutenant Colonel West. There is no place for you at the top of Texas's leadership. What do they really need you for? The state runs just fine, and when it was messed up, it was really messed up under conservative leadership. What would you be bringing to the table that would be different? Vernon Jones want to run Georgia? Not likely. Georgia runs just fine without, a black male conservative in his place. They don't really need that, right? John James wants to run Michigan. For what? Michigan runs just fine. They don't need any more, black conservative leadership. They don't need that there. That's not really what's in play. It's not trending right now. Black conservatives are not trending in the way that people want to make it out to be, at least on that side. Okay? I'm not saying that the left has it all figured out. I'm saying black conservatives, black male conservatives, will keep honking their horn for the MAGA train, but don't see that the MAGA train isn't stopping at the station for you. That was an express train. That stop is a no-go for black conservatives. Where are they going? Where are the victories on the ground for black conservatives that came from MAGA support? Where is the MAGA support? That's all I'm saying. Food for thought. Like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at brothers_podcast.